BitShares is a world-class blockchain like Bitcoin with a digital currency platform boasting enterprise-level scalability and throughput with separations of power and self-governance baked in. Need the power of a blockchain with the stability of a dollar? We invented it and tested it for 3 years. Want to make a loyalty token, coupon, or shares in your business? We have you covered. Wish to add world-class development? This tech can fund your work. Whether for an everyday entrepreneur or computer-savvy code guru, BitShares provides tools to empower a world of unapologetic innovators to wield and share value with a level of freedom once thought impossible. Meet a community of such innovators every Friday at 2 p.m. UTC, led by Chris Herring and Fuzzy, to play a role in the evolution and advancement of this state-of-the-art project. Welcome to the BitShares revolution. You just leveled up.
Hello everybody, my name is Chris4210 and I would like to welcome you to another BitShares Hangout. This week we're going to have a lot of great news, we have a lot of stuff to talk about, and I think one of the biggest topics that we had the last couple of days was this BitShares stress test on the 15th. We were testing basically the speed, all the results, and we broke a couple of new records, and I'm very excited to share all the information with you guys to see what happened. I would call out a lesson learned. I think we have a couple of people participated joining us today, and would like to see their opinion, and also what we can do for the next stress test, because this was just the beginning, I think, of a series of stress tests to really see how we can break our graphene blockchain. And that was really an interesting session. Due to the daylight saving times, we had a couple of time confusions. So if you are now a little bit later, we just started maybe an hour later or earlier, but it should be all up on iTunes and all the other on YouTube and so on. So for today, I think we're gonna skip the session of introducing a new BitShares feature. I think one of the biggest surprises for me, especially from the stress test I was watching in, and there's actually a live stream. I put it on Steam, but I will just post the link very shortly after. One of the biggest surprises of the stress test for me was, first of all, how easily we could switch parameters. So we could just simply go, from 3 seconds to 5 seconds block times up to 10 seconds. And then the biggest surprise for me is when we decided to try to break the chain, and we went down to 1 second block times on a global distributed testnet. And what happened? Nothing happened. Nothing happened. No witness was kicked out. We didn't forked. We were running on, I think, 11 or 12 different servers worldwide. Absolutely normal in 1 second.
I think we had almost 20 witness nodes running during the 1 second stress test.
And we made around 400 to 500 transactions per block per second. So that was pretty amazing. I mean, like if you look into the live stream that you can find on YouTube, I will just post this the screen. That was pretty amazing, pretty surprising. And I would like to hand it over to Sirok to tell us a little bit about the stress test results and his because he managed it first. And I really want to thank him for providing the stress test overview, for the designs, for organizing everything, to mentoring everything, and it is really his big work that we had a cool stress test and a couple of new records.
Yeah, thanks. I'm still trying. I'm still trying to put everything together into a nice white paper, all the results that we made. Unfortunately, I didn't have too much time today. I can probably work more on this next week. Well, the results are on the stats page. We made, let me quickly see, I think like almost 8 million transactions. Over 8 million transactions. And in these transactions, we have processed over 30 million operations. Most of them have been simple transfer operations because those are, I think they are the shortest we can do with any, from the size perspective.
Real quick, just to put a light bulb in here for a newbie moment. One of these transactions, right? One of these operations could be a transaction, essentially.
Yes, you can have, basically in graphene blockchains, you have blocks. Each block can carry multiple transactions. Each transaction is signed by a single or multiple parties, depending on what you're doing, spending funds from a certain account. But you can spend funds you can spend multiple times from the same account in a single transaction. And that is done by using multiple operations. So the easiest use case would be if you want to send out money to many people at once. I used that when I was distributing brownie points to a bunch of people. I just put everything into a single transaction. I think it was like 60 or 7 operations in a single transaction, and you only need a single signature for that. So you only sign that single transaction, but you can do multiple transfers in a single transaction. The cool thing is, and that's something really, really, really nice, is that you can be sure that the order of operations within a transaction is executed the same way you put it into the transaction. So for instance, you can basically not just do transfers, but you can do a combination of transfers, buys, sells, borrows, creation of updates of call positions, generation of proposals, approval of. You can can put any operation into the transactions, and many of them in a row. So basically, you can buy from that market and right away put it into another market. This kind of stuff.
And the reason why I ask is because this would be something that each one of these operations would be traditionally looked at by people in the blockchain sphere as being one transaction would normally be. Would that be correct?
Yeah, well, the comparison is a little unfair because you can do multi-transfers in Bitcoin as well with a single transaction. If you remember, there's multiple outputs and multiple inputs in a transaction. So you could do that as well. It's just not as explicit as in BitShares.
Interesting.
And Bitcoin just cannot process so many outputs in a single transaction. As far as I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many outputs you can have in a single transaction, but it's probably not in the thousands.
Have you made any insight with regard? I'm sorry. Have you made any insight with regard to the peer-to-peer layer issues that kind of kept our throughput reduced?
I have not. I'm actually currently not even convinced it's a peer-to-peer network issue. I have tried to reproduce something this morning and have replaced all the witnesses with a single one that I control, a rather fat machine with 30 gigabytes of RAM. And I connected to the machine directly to produce transactions using 10 Klee wallets in parallel, throwing all the 8 cores on just signing transactions, and I still couldn't do more than 300 transactions per second. Then I added another machine that was located outside, through another 4 cores of basically 4 cores of transaction generation on the network through the peer-to-peer network then, and the throughput didn't go up. The blockchain throughput. So
that was a good test. I think you did prove that it may not be in the peer-to-peer layer doing that test.
Yeah, I'm still. I have no clue where it is. There are a couple of places where this limitation can come from, but I need to look more into it. It could be that there's a parameter that I just missed.
It seems like we might need to instrument with the debugger, the C++, and see whether or not we can profile that and see where all that activity is going if we've got a bottleneck somewhere.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that we had a couple blocks with way more transactions per second. That's where the record came from. And we have recorded this all in the blockchain, so you can go back and see that there's something where you had a lot more transactions in this per second. But I'm not sure. Well, I'm going to investigate this, and then I can tell you more.
Yeah, we'll give you some time.
Yeah,
Maybe
thanks.
just to put it on the podcast as well. So the record we reached this Wednesday in terms of operations was over 62,000 operations in one block, and that comes down to 20,000 plus operations per second. An operation could be like a dividend payout to 500 different accounts, one single signed. So 20,000 transactions in one. And then when you go base transaction, we reached 9,985 transactions per block, and that breaks down to 3,328 transactions per second. This is the latest record we got on a 3-second block time.
Beautifully stated, Chris.
Oh, there's another interesting thing. During our over 2 hours, almost 3 hours of stress testing, we have always had an average of 300 transactions per second. That's the average, basically. 300 transactions per second over almost 3 hours.
Without a lot of without witnesses crashing and doing it around the world. So that right there is a major benchmark that we can publicize and hype to the moon.
Yeah, well, there have been a couple of witnesses that have not been able to stick with the network. I'm not sure what the reasons for that was. My witness was up and running the whole test. I'm not sure what they did wrong. Could be just I'm not sure. But basically, well, we also have a couple missed blocks. But that goes if you ignore the witnesses that just popped out of the network and stop producing altogether, then we probably have a missed blocks ratio of, I don't know, maybe less than 5% or something. It was really, really low. Almost all the time when I looked into the uptime of the witnesses, there was all in the green, or there were a couple that have been not so stable from the beginning, but most of them, like I think there were like 12 or so that have been in the stress test from the beginning and haven't missed a lot of blocks, even with 1 second block confirmation time.
Can we dive a little bit deeper into the 1 second? Johnny Bitcoin is just writing here that he thought 3 seconds is the minimum limit because of the speed of light issue.
Well, the speed of light issue and the size of the planet is something that is usually used as a conservative way of telling people that there is a lower bound of how fast you can go. Basically, you can think of the worst case scenario, and that is you have a network of 2 witnesses that produce blocks, and they are apart as far as possible. So one is in Australia and the other one is in Europe, basically. And then you have round trip time on the internet, so that the packages go from one to the other, that is close to a second or something like that. And if that happens, it might be that the witness that is supposed to produce the next block is just missing the block because he doesn't receive the block he's supposed to build on in time. This is basically this 2 seconds or something is the worst case scenario, which is a regular internet connectivity and a network that is globally distributed. And here I need to say that most of the witnesses during the stress test have been located around Central Europe. There have been a bunch in France, a bunch in Germany, a couple, I think 1 or 2 in Switzerland or so. There was, interestingly, there was a witness node in South Korea, and he was producing quite nicely as far as I can remember. And there were 2 or 3 in Northern America, and they were also producing quite nicely. So it all breaks down to the connectivity in the peer-to-peer network, basically.
All right. So I think the next big thing would be to figure out what was the limiting parameters. Why couldn't we produce more blocks and create more load? So this was really actually, when you summarize it, this was our biggest problem. It was not that the witnesses couldn't manage it, because I think we had really nice machines, 32 gigabyte in RAM and so on. And since we also had, as we mentioned before the mumble started, this new code where the witness workload or the witness requirement for RAM could be dramatically reduced. So we could actually get more throughput. But our biggest problem was to create enough. So the big question is, how do we create more stress?
And just to plug in what Good Karma said with respect to what Xerox was talking about with the ability in Bitcoin to send multiple transactions in one block. He said that it is limited to 2,500. So just a little stat that somebody pushed in that I think is probably important to state.
Did you say Can you repeat the number of operations in the transaction?
He says here, BTC max TX per block was no more than 2,500.
Was that measured or is that theoretical?
It's a good question.
It's 2,500 transactions per block on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Oh yeah, Bitcoin. Yeah, well, that's because the blocks cannot be fast, bigger than 1 megabyte, and 1 megabyte is filled up with 2,500 transactions, which means that they are the smallest transactions you can possibly do. I think the cool thing here is that, and we didn't mention that a lot because it's like well, in Bitcoin, they are shouting at each other because of the block size, and in BitShares, you basically just change the block size as easily as you can change the block interval. And we have had a couple different max block sizes and max transaction sizes that we tested during the stress test. I think I started with 1 kilobyte max for transactions and 1 megabyte blocks, and went to 10 megabyte blocks. But I have the feeling that in our stress test, these parameters didn't make a lot of impact because our limiting factor was not the bandwidth or the size of the blocks, but rather I'm not sure. Could be the peer-to-peer network, could be that we are not able to produce more stress, could be that it takes some certain amount of time to actually put that much transactions into a block. I'm not sure what the limiting factor is, but in our case, it's certainly not the size of the block or the size of the transaction. If it was, we just increased it.
It'll be interesting to see what it is, because it's kind of like in Bitcoin, they have this really, they're kind of walking the line, right? And you have to, if you increase the block size, there's going to be political ramifications, technical ramifications. But if you don't increase the block size, that's never going to change that limitation. So they're kind of in between a rock and a hard place. But what you're saying is we just change it.
Yeah, well, we have a governance system and we have a way to decide stuff.
Yeah.
And so we do that if we can find a consensus on it, and there is a way to find a consensus by going through the worker system.
Yeah, I think we make the assumption that Bitcoin is actually trying to improve their network. Without a governance, it seems like they're working harder to not improve the network.
Nicely said.
Either that or they'll grow really quickly because of some greed-based mechanism that makes them kind of go viral, but when they need stability that comes with self-governance, that option won't be there. So
I like to say Bitcoin is a perfect failure. We're gonna have the banks fund all of the training of the engineers of the future.
That's a good way. It is a beautiful thing. Still, got it. I can't lie about it. You're right. Sorry, guys. Go ahead.
I think there was another thing that I really remember during the stress test. I actually have a recording of the stress test. I just have to upload it and process it. So I recorded. We all met in the Mumble, so I have a full recording. There's also a lot of white noise, so nobody was talking, but maybe we can speed it up. But I remember that Fabian was very surprised about the standard block size. How much was it again?
Oh yeah, that was
sounds like crazy.
Sure,
you dropped out.
The standard block size was 2 gigabytes for a single block.
Jeez, you sending movies?
More or less. Talking about 10 megabyte increase.
Wow, that is a big deal. You don't want to laugh, but at the same time, it's true. That's a strength. And what's crazy to me is that for so long, BitShares has been kind of just a lot of people don't even know about BitShares. A lot of people who've learned about BitShares have been from Steemit because they're, it's a way that they can get into cryptocurrency without having to do anything. And then they learn about, this is the big brother. This is what created, the possibility of Steem. And this is where everything trades. And these people see what can happen. But for so long, this wasn't even, people weren't even aware of it,
I think that's drastically changing also right now. The price is going up a little bit, and also there's a little bit of more fuss going on with Steemit and so on. So I think we're gonna really seeing a big change in our ecosystem. So the next big move forward now would be for the stress test that we are summarizing what happened. I'm very much looking forward to the white paper. And then we have to increase the whole thing and see that we can do the stress test as soon as possible again. And then we can gather more information and really stretch the transactions. The next big topic for today I would like to talk about is I would like to learn a little bit more about the Uptick Python library. We already started talking about that a little bit, but I think right now it's a good time since we have the core developer here to tell us a little bit more about what is the plan, the idea, how can we contribute, how can we help? Because I know that Steem has so many cool tools and blockchain explorers and ways how to analyze the data, and I think that would be perfect if you had that for BitShares too.
Yeah, well, the library that I'm currently writing on is basically all the lessons learned from writing the library for Steem is now going to profit the BitShares library, and even beyond. There are some lessons that I learned afterwards while I was writing on the BitShares library. The idea is to make it possible to deal with BitShares in just a couple lines of code, and the most basic stuff is already there. For instance, once you have loaded or imported your account credentials, like the private key for your account, you can buy an asset with just 2 lines of code in Python, like really 2 lines of code in Python. And I want to make it that people can use the library as easily as they were using the library that is offered by Poloniex or by all the other exchanges, and that's where I would like to go with that library.
I know I have somebody who's doing something with BitShares who is using your Python library to accomplish something.
I think the BitCrypto people are using it as well. They mentioned they would like to create their own user interface, which is easily possible with the library. I think I could write a Electrum style standalone application for BitShares using that library in just a week or 10 days. It's just that I don't, well, it does, I could take that time to do that, but it doesn't profit the community a lot because I would rather see other people coming in and doing that part. BTSbots.com is another thing that is written in JavaScript entirely. It makes it all the transactions and yada yada. But the Python stuff can be used to well, on the one side you can build graphical user interfaces in Qt or GTK or Tkinter, what it's called in Python, and building all kinds of user interfaces for the DEX for BitShares. But what I'm also working on is you can use the Python code to build anything as a web application. Some of you may know Streamian.com, which is also a product that I wrote on Steem. It's doing automated stuff for people on the Steem network, like voting, posting, and stuff like that. And that can be easily done for BitShares as well. But, and that's why I'm not doing it right now, here in Europe, there some regulations that prevent me from dealing with other people's money, and that's KYC and AML and all the anti-terrorist laws, basically anti-terrorist financing. I don't know what it's called, but there's a couple of them that prevent me to actually launch a automated trading stuff. Like it's writing advanced trading algorithms, for instance, stop loss or profit taking when a price is reached, and these kind of things can be easily written in Python, and you could basically offer that kind of service to other people and do that with their accounts if they approve. But if there wasn't for the regulations, I would probably just do it. Well, here in Europe, it's pretty difficult. if you find someone that doesn't have these regulation restrictions, then I'm totally open for helping them out.
Is that the best way you recommend then, is to point someone we're hiring to you, or is there a place where they can kind of get up to speed on how to integrate it?
One of the core things that I work on and that are very important for me is the documentation of the library and the documentation of Uptick. If you go and take a look in the code, then every call is documented. It tells you what it does. And let me paste the link here. I have all of the documentation parsed from the code and presented on that web page here. So you can start reading into it. You can start using it today. Keep in mind that it's still somewhat alpha beta software. It will probably do what you want, but it could also happen that there's going to happen some Python error that I just missed something. The testing.
What is the easiest user interface or GUI technology to integrate with Python? If you wanted to build a web interface, what would be the best way to go about that and integrate with the backend being Python?
Well, the stuff that I'm using for Streamian is Flask.
Flask is good. In fact,
Flask.
the BTS tools are based on Flask, so that would be a great learning curve for me to ramp up with it because of the Flask, for sure.
If you want, I'm not sure how many people have realized that already. I haven't finished the work yet. That's why I haven't mentioned it to too many people, but maybe it's a good idea to do it now. I have completely revamped the BitShares Europe web presence, basically. If you know Streamian, then you will see that it looks pretty similar to what Streamian is from the optics. It's also running the same code in the background, and it currently doesn't offer much services, except that it offers a referral system tracking. So next to OpenLedger, BitShares Europe now also has a public faucet for people to use. But in contrast to OpenLedger, you can get your own tracking code on a distinct BitShares Europe web page and get statistics from them.
Isn't Flask a template-based system for the web portion?
Flask is basically the HTTP processing stuff. It contains a templating part. And what is cool is that it comes with a lot of extra plugins that make life easier. For instance, there is something that's called SQL Alchemy, and that's used if you want to interface with a database. It also comes with stuff that is called you can install Flask Socket IO, and then you basically can do all the real-time data analysis.
Are you using UWSGI for the actual linkage to the web server?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Very good. That's a correlated match with BTS tools. That's perfect match up there. So integrating with Uptick will be a joy to get involved with.
Yeah. So Uptick isn't basically. Let me just tell you what the idea is behind all of this. Uptick is basically just a command line interface for now. It's just a command line interface that you can run in your command line. Uptick itself doesn't have any special features or anything. It's really just calling the functionality that is available through the Python BitShares library. So if you wanted to build something for BitShares, then you would just go directly to the Python BitShares library. And if you don't see how stuff works, then you can take a look at how stuff is done in Uptick. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that maybe I should open source the code for BitShares Europe so that people can take a look at how it, at least parts of it. I'm not going to open up the referral stuff, but I could open up the basic thing so that people can see how you can connect Flask with BitShares and use it to, I don't know, whatever you want. Basically, you can...
Like a block explorer, for example, would be a good example of something we could do with this.
Well, maybe I should just write a quick and dirty block explorer, just some very basic thing, and then publish it. And then the thing is, I currently don't see that I will have the time to write a full-fledged block explorer on my own. So I would need someone else to take over the project. If there's community interest, I can see if I can find the time to write a basic start of a basic block explorer for the real-time stats. And from there, someone else needs to go over and pimp it nicely and do stuff like that. Funny fact, Johnny, I do have a twin brother.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's
That's a very interesting one. We're gonna have to see Xerox clones popping up all over the place, or at least maybe his twin brother.
Is he a coder, Xerox?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus.
Oh,
He's actually he also studied electrical engineering and is currently working at Fraunhofer Institute in Erlangen. That's the Fraunhofer Institute that has invented MP3. So he's doing audio coding with C, and maybe I have someday I have the tools to chiz him enough so that he's gonna consider coding for blockchains.
Maybe he should start the next Muse.
Yeah, or just help out with coding BitShares, huh?
Well, if we get a second Xerox, a copy of Xerox, man, it's been like, what, 3 years?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I think that would be perfect. Maybe there's the foundation for conspiracy. But I think that's very exciting to see that this uptick library can make a lot of things. And I'm just trying to look for the right word, but I think it would be cool to have part of that Python library open source, because
the Python library is entirely open source. Entirely. The
Uptick
Python
is a layer on top of that, so
Yeah,
that's different.
Uptick is also entirely open source. Python BitShares, well, they are funded through the BitShares worker. They are entirely open source, and unless I missed the license file, it's going to be MIT licensed.
And wouldn't it be like I'm missing the right word, like a translation book or something? So I see, like, I think in Python I see the code, and then I can look under the code and say, okay, this is how BitShares works. Interesting. And then you go up and down, and this way you basically map out all the different functions that are available on BitShares, and then this will be easier for new coders, for new developers to get started with the BitShares code base, because they can easily look into Python. Can I do this? Okay. And then take a look and see, this is how I can do it in the native language or in Python.
Exactly.
Perfect. All right. I think another good news that is coming up. I mean, as you already saw, the BitShares price is increasing right now. I also want to give a big ups to BitCrap and to the Chinese community, because they are currently pushing the BitUSD market heavily. I think they put up to 82 million BitShares for shorting BitUSD. So this is really a big portion. And if you're interested in providing BitUSD liquidity, this is really something really cool. You can use the BTS bots for doing that. And I think the current best trading corridors for that is BitUSD to BitUSD Tether, or OpenUSD Tether, I think is the asset name. So in this way, you can basically buy USD Tether on Poloniex, put it on BitShares, and then you can trade. This is another way how you can easily move funds in a stable way. And I think in a couple of days ago, we had even a really close pack to USD to Tether. That was pretty cool. So there was no big spread anymore. And as Johnny Bitcoin said, so BitCrap, he created $120,000 through that move, and I think that is really something honorable, because this is a lot of money that is now available as liquidity.
By the way, I'm not 100% sure whether that's correct, but I think it's cheaper to get into BTS by going through USD Tether, buying BitUSD and then settling the BitUSD, instead of buying BTS directly through Bitcoin. First of all, there's the volatility in Bitcoin that you have, and you need to deal with them. And if you go through US Tether and then BitUSD, you basically don't have any volatility. And then you can settle them into BTS at, I'm not sure what the supply and what the parameters actually are, but you can probably settle a couple thousand US dollar worth of BitShares through settling BitUSD.
I just wish Tether was more functional. It just takes so long. I had one for 8 hours transaction.
It's linked to the Bitcoin network, right? So that's why it's so slow.
It's on top of Bitcoin, yeah. It reminds me of when I wanted to donate to the wallet redesign from this Ether design guy. I sent the BitUSD, the Bitcoin using Electrum and used the default settings. And back then there was this heavy load on the mempool on Bitcoin, and it took me 2 days, and I was just fired up. And after the 2 days, I decided to send over Open BTC instead of the real BTC, and basically to Ronnie, who then, well, in the end, Open BTC can be moved in 3 seconds. It's really like, boys.
I see more Dash being connected as well. There's one with being lined up with a new UIA to BitUSD, kind of indirectly.
You talking about an asset for Dash on the DEX, on the BitShares DEX?
Correct. It's called Hemp Value, and someone has got a pretty good sell wall of Dash. So then you can bounce around pretty quick from Dash.
Mr. Anderson, maybe do you want to introduce your project a little bit here? I think that would be a good moment if you can release any good information and how it will benefit for BitShares and how we maybe can support you.
Yes, thank you. So part of Hemp Sweet, we are developing a new way of making a healthy sugar here in the US. We're about a year out on R&D. We've started to pre-sell 1 pound retail bags of it, but we're using the BitShares network as a receipt mechanism to keep track of who has made a purchase. So we've got different redeem accounts. So if it's a retail, it goes to retail account. If it's a merchant or a bulk wholesaler, those are all different. So with these receipts, because it's a UIA, it's tradable. We're finding that some of the purchasers are actually not redeeming for our sugar, but then trading it up for Dash is probably the most common thing we're seeing now.
So what will actually happening? How does it work? How do you think you can support BitShares?
Well, so we are keeping our Hemp Sweet token, which is the digital receipt, pegged to BitUSD. So we plan to keep all of our the vast majority of our funds through that. In the future, we're planning on doing a crowd sell. Initially, we thought we'd have to sell enough sugar to pay for the $1 million of R&D still required and up with the 12 months required. But after discussing with Dash community, we're looking at pairing up different governance platforms that coincide. So I see a lot of synergy with BitShares and Dash. And it looks like the Dash network might possibly just pay for the R&D for the year. And that will open it up to a crowd sale being more of an educational thing on the 2 different platforms. And the DEX is absolutely crucial with that. Part of the Dash in that community, they are not really happy about centralized exchanges and finding on-ramps. I think our digital receipt to Dash is a perfect example of that. So what they're doing is taking our Hemp Sweet digital receipt and then buying Hemp Value, which appears to be pegged at the dollar, and then it goes out to the Dash from there with a pretty good buy wall.
So basically, Hemp Sweet and the value token are both on the BitShares blockchain, right?
Correct. So we're using it to keep track. So first person that redeems for, let's say, 1 pound of our xylitol sugar, they are the first person we will ship to. So from the hemp farmers, that's what we're making our xylitol from. 40% of hemp is xylose. And what we're R&Ding is a microorganism conversion instead of the standard hydrogenation process, which uses nickel for catalyzation. So from the farmers to the refinery to our bioreactor for the xylitol production to packaging, manufacturing, distribution, everyone is going to either use BitUSD or Dash. I've consulted that they should definitely stick with something that's a little less volatile. So BitUSD will be the main source for that whole line of economy, and that's where then BlockPay comes in. We're going to offer incentives for companies that integrate in BlockPay services. And we see Dash as being very consumer front facing. And that will kind of complete the loop and then go back into the employees of the farms. And so what we're trying to do is complete an entire closed loop economy economy separate from legacy.
Is it? Are you concerned about the liquidity of the BitUSD for your operations?
Well, we're slowly ramping up over the next 12 months. And with the Dash network, if they end up paying the million, which will be split up per payout cycle, it'll be less capital that we need all concentrated in one area.
So basically, when you buy one of those tokens, or if you join this industry, then if you get an invoice because you just bought, I don't know, 2 or 3 liters of hemp sugar, then you have to pay that with BitUSD. I think that is one of the first times where you really use market-backed assets for the business. That is pretty cool.
Yes, the only way that we will send out our sugar is by the redemption of the Hemp Sweet token. So the only way, there will be layers on top, but that's going to be a premium. So people are going to pay a lot more to get our sugar, which we're creating something that has extreme high demand and very easy to bring the price down. Currently, the competitor is birch tree and corn. Birch tree takes 20 to 30 years to grow, and corn doesn't have enough xylose, and it's kind of a dirty process with GMO and all of that. Where hemp, we use 40% of the plant, but the 60% of it gets used by other industries. So we're creating a market demand that people will go through the extra hoops. And once they get into the digital sphere, they'll realize it's easier than traditional pathways.
And if I want to participate, let's say I am a regular BitShares user and I want to, I see that idea, I see the website, I see like, wow, this is cool. How can I participate? How can I provide BitUSD liquidity? Do I just sell it for BitUSD BitShares, or is there a special market I should sell my BitUSD? How can I basically give it to your clients?
I'm not sure I totally understand the question.
Well, you have now you have regular clients, right? Industry traders, people who want to buy that hemp sugar, and they will call to you and say like, "Hey, I want to buy 10 liters of hemp sugar. How do I pay you?" You say, "Well, you need to get these BitUSD, and then you give me the BitUSD, then I will ship you the products." So the question is, how does the initial the initial setup start? How does a buyer get hands on his BitUSD so that he can pay you to buy the hemp sugar?
Yes. Well, my hope is actually to reward the people involved that built the DEX in this community and really all crypto community. So we're saving kind of the non-crypto world to the last. So what I'm hoping is most of the people here in the sphere will buy up the very cheap tokens. I think Hemp Sweet right now is right around 3.1 BitUSD, somewhere around there. And then, because it's very quickly going to go up to BitUSD each. Now we'll have some different incentive. Let's say they have 1,000 Hemp Sweet tokens, then they get 2,000 pounds of xylitol. So my hope is to galvanize the decentralized cryptocurrency world into becoming our salespeople and making a profit. I want as many people to be rewarded as possible.
I personally love the idea of xylitol because, like you said, the demand. There are a lot of people who are not wanting to take a lot of sugar in, but they are very upset that all these artificial sweeteners tend to have a lot of bad side effects. And xylitol seems to be
very healthy.
Yep, seems to be the only one that works.
It's just expensive.
Yes, that's exactly it. And yeah, I've been in medicine for over 20 years, and if we can get the world to switch from sugarcane to xylitol, which it's a 1-to-1, it has the same sweetness, we would cure 75% of all chronic disease in the world. So this will be a good use case of using crypto. I have to spend no resources on these ledgers. So at any one time, we're going to have our production rate posted, and people will be able to look and see at a log based on what the token is on each of the account ledger. So they'll be able to estimate how long before they actually will be able to receive the sugar. And we're looking at decentralizing these. So all the patents that we're going to develop with scaling up the large bioreactors is going to be an open patent. And we're looking at kind of turning them into miners in a way. So we're hoping to have bioreactors all over the world.
Wow, this is really a crazy story. Well, I'm really, really looking forward to that. And are you going to post a couple of information on Steemit or the BitShares Talk forum about that?
Yes, we are in Steemit. It's been focused on the products that we're selling right now, such as the hemp CBD, which is very popular in the US, and I'm getting quite a few orders from Germany. They're paying with Dash. So we accept all the crypto. And yeah, so hemp, the nice thing is it really is legal everywhere. The biggest problem for hemp is actually misinformation. Marijuana industry doesn't want hemp to grow. You look at what hemp competes. Anything petro can do, hemp can do. Anything really pharmaceutical, because they petro a lot of their stuff, hemp once again. So there's not a lot of friends. So they're not getting the funding that the marijuana industry is getting, and it's ripe. So yeah, this company that we have partnered with that is doing the research for us, they are looking, and I'm having a talk later today about setting their whole company up, and they're going to be paid in BitUSD.
I think that is fantastic news. All right, wow. I think we learned a lot today. It's almost over with this week's show. We had a couple of problems, but if I look at the Mumble server right now, I think we have a new record of people coming up since a long time. I think we have more than 30 people today who showed up here on the Friday Mumble show, and I want to thank everybody for showing up today, even if we had a couple of problems at the beginning. Stress test was amazing this week. It was really a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to the next one, and I hope next one we're gonna break new records, more records. And if you want to see the whole thing, how the stress test looked like from the inside, you can go to steamer.com. I posted up a video there from one of our developers from Valentine. A lot of thanks to him. It was really great that he provided a video stream about how that all works from the backend. You know, how do you generate all the blocks, transactions, and so on. So that's pretty cool to watch. And beside that, guys, please stay tuned, visit the forum. Short update, I was trying to talk to the BitShares Foundation, to Roland, and he still is very, very busy right now, so I have no updates yet on the forum, but I'm working on it, and I hope that we can have a couple of good news about the BitShares forum soon, and then we can have some movement here again as well. That would be absolutely good. Beside that, if you have any other questions, feedback, just go to the Telegram channel. You can always reach me there. Also on the forums, just send me a message, and I will note down your request for the next topic. And I'm looking forward to talk to all of you next week. Yet again, 2 p.m. UTC. That is London time, UK time, 2 p.m. Every Friday here, the big BitShares Mumble Hangout. Thank you very much for listening, and see you next time. Thank you.